Hey, it's Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Martavis Bryant, and you listen to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
What was that?
Do not adjust your speakers. You heard correct, Foot Clan.
Who was that?
Martavis Bryant, a.k.a. Marty McBride.
There you have it.
He is on today's show. We are talking to Martavis Bryant on today's show. How'd that happen? I do not know.
Hey, we make things happen here at the Fantasy Footballers.
We got some great interviews coming up. We got Nick Mangold coming up, I think maybe next week or the week after, starting center for the New York Jets.
We're talking beards with Nick Mangold.
Some handsome fancy
beards.
Welcome to the show. We've got a good one for you today. This is the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. I'm Andy Holloway, joined by Jason Moore.
And Martavis Bryant.
Martavis Bryant and Mike Wright.
Hey.
Those intros were rough.
What?
Maybe because you were focused on this.
88 miles per hour!
Yeah, a little distracted by the Marty McBride on the show today.
Yeah.
Ooh, if you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You can go to thefantasyfootballers.com if you want to submit a question, if you want to learn how to support the show. There's some information on there. We just posted a new article yesterday with some great Week 1 defensive matchups. So that's the best way to draft defenses, people.
Yep.
Draft those defenses that look good in Weeks 1 and 2 and 3, and then stream them, right?
Completely agree.
So today we're talking to Martavis Bryant. We've got some busts, some players to avoid, some warning signs for certain guys. We're going to hit the mailbag hard.
Bam, bam, bam.
Like a slab of meat in Rocky.
Yep. Boom. Right in the face.
Boom. That's Rocky's punch. Boom.
Yeah.
He
He lost a couple fights on Mike. I mean, he wasn't always on point.
That's fair.
What
a loser,
all right,
Rocky.
I got two quick questions for today.
Ooh.
A double whammy.
Double stuff.
The first one is, do you have a go-to fantasy football team name? Because I heard the best team name I've heard in a long time yesterday.
Well, here's the deal. We better give our names first.
Because they don't compare.
Right.
Do you have? What's yours?
My favorite team name for this current year, it revolves around pancakes, but it's a double entendre of Granny Pancakes.
Yeah, you named your team that for the listener league.
Granny Pancakes.
Yeah, that sounds like you. All right.
I would go with, because he's one of my sleepers of choice, I go with Morning Woodhead.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry. I know. Not the best.
Well,
but the best is coming up right here.
I don't even have. This is what I answered when someone asked me that question, because I don't have like a go-to for this year. But now I do.
Yeah.
Because the name was Daenerys Targaryen.
That is fantastic.
So Game of Thrones shout out there. That's spectacular. I love it when the pop culture things come out of the blue, and then you have a whole new like suite of names.
And whoever coined that, a tip of the cap
tip
to
of the
you.
cap to you. Yeah, it was somebody who had submitted a question to us, and so I looked at their team and I saw the name right above their players.
So good.
All right. So the other part of the quick question is this: draft season's happening right now. How much misdirection do you put into play when it comes to your draft? Like, some people are really open with their draft strategies. Some people are really secretive. But then there's another category of people who, Jason's raising his hand,
Yes.
who like to misdirect a little bit onto who he's interested in.
That's why I'm excited in auction leagues, because I feel like I can use the most of my manipulation. But I just love terrorizing the value of players, especially in keeper leagues, and knocking them down if they're on a team.
You're the worst.
I know.
You destroy me. Yeah. After I won the title, you spent the next summer disparaging any player that I could want to trade in our keeper league.
Correct, because I don't want you to have any value to it. So I love that. That's part of the game for me. For me, I enjoy telling somebody how bad a player is and then being super excited when I draft them at the draft so that I can get them. In fact, all information I've given all season long has been to drive down the values of players. Everything I've said
Wait, on the
is a
show?
lie.
On the show?
Whole season.
Mike, we didn't know this.
It's the long con.
So I go with the stone face 50-50 combo, so that way you have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
So you're either telling the truth or you're lying, but there's just no way to make a move off of it.
Exactly, because you make everything sound exactly the same in your inflection and your excitement or your disparaging of a player.
Give us an example here.
Devontae Freeman is going to have a fantastic year.
Ooh, I like that. I really like that. I have no idea if you believe that or not.
I know the answer to that. That's a bold-faced lie in
If
your
you
eyes.
listen to the podcast, you know. But these are the things that you need to say in your draft while you're walking in. Have side conversations just loud enough so that whoever's drafting in front of you can hear it.
So whoever's wearing the Falcons jersey, ooh, yeah.
That looks really good. Yeah, I always laugh at the people who, a lot of the times guys from our leagues, they want to run like a mock draft to see what's going to happen and where we, predict what the other player. I'm always like, how much do I
Yeah.
I mean, is this really worth value to me? Because I can't even draft the guys I want to draft because then again, now I have a show that everybody knows my rankings top to the bottom. So, all right, let's get into some news.
News and notes from around the league.
Not a ton of news for today. Obviously, we've been here every day this week, so you're getting every bit of news that comes across the wire. Kind of some speculative news, but out of the Philadelphia Inquirer, they're talking up Nelson Aguilar, that he will be the second most productive receiver on the team. I think this is something we all kind of can see really easily. I mean, outside of Jordan Matthews, he has the most talent on that team, unless Josh Huff surprises us, which I don't expect.
The only thing I wanted to point out was that Josh Huff is a completely forgotten name. We didn't even talk about him on Sleepers, and I think when you look at the value
we did a few months ago.
Yeah, well, right. I'm just saying we just did a Sleeper show yesterday, and we didn't mention him.
Yeah,
but Aguilar's exploding, and his draft position is, well, he's going to be the guy there. But I think on the depth chart right now, he's behind Huff, so we just have to pay attention because Huff's undrafted.
And there's certain players right now that are also going to be sitting out the rest of the preseason. We heard Calvin Johnson's not playing the rest of the preseason.
Good for him.
Other new, Zach Ertz isn't going to play in the preseason, and he might not play in week 1, which is another report.
So that's the news and I think these tie together, the Aguilar news and with Zach Ertz might not be ready for week 1. Him missing training camp is devastating for his stock.
It's terrible. It's terrible because he's never established himself as an every down tight end. And because of where he's being drafted, he's kind of like Shady is right now for me, where I can just take somebody else. I don't have to take Zach Ertz. I don't have to take LaShawn McCoy with the guys around him. So I'm probably not. I mean, it just kills their draft stock. And maybe there'll be a value for somebody because of that. But it's not going to be me because I'm not going to take the chance with those positions when I can just draft Eifert or somebody else.
Yeah, even if you draft Ertz, there's a very good chance you're going to stream the position midway through the year. So why start your year with a problem?
So last bit of news here is Michael Floyd. We know he had a finger issue, dislocation. Reports are saying he might play week 1. So just keep that in mind if you're drafting John Brown to start right away, or if you're avoiding Michael Floyd completely, you might get him
the
at a high value.
shows that people are
drafting him late.
Yeah, Michael Floyd's going very late. I'll look him up.
And the truth is he was very good last year with Carson Palmer.
Back of the 11th.
And if I learned anything from Madden 16 this week, Michael Floyd is amazing. He can catch anything, man.
Did you lose to him or win to him?
No, I was using him like crazy. I was like, I'm not throwing anybody but Michael Floyd. He goes up and grabs it all.
Why don't we run the whole season through Madden and then we'll know what's going to happen?
Madden season. Oh, that's exclusive for David Johnson.
There's a big Martavis Bryant part of the intro to that game. I popped it in. We popped it in when we got it on Tuesday.
Yep.
And there's a lot of Martavis Bryant in there. And then I proceeded to, because the intro game was the Cardinals versus the Steelers. When it got to crunch time, I took Big Ben and I ran him backwards 80 yards for a safety so that my Cardinals could actually win the Super Bowl against them.
Yeah.
Don't tell me what to do, Madden.
It was great, and the game let me do it, and the Cardinals won the Super Bowl, and I was a happy man. So, hey, I want to remind everybody about FantasyDraftWizard.com. It's go time, people. This is the time to draft, and that means you need to run some mock drafts. Know what to expect. You can put in the players, you can put in the keepers, you can run mock drafts in like 2 minutes and see where guys are going. You draft against the expert consensus rankings.
It's a free tool that costs you nothing, And
Is that what a free tool is?
that's what it means.
A free tool costs you nothing?
And it's super quick, and if you don't use fantasydraftwizard.com, you have no chance of winning your league.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's talk some what I'm calling busts. Yesterday we did sleepers, we did flyers, late round steals. Today we're talking busts, warning sign players, players to avoid, okay? So what guy jumps out at you right now?
You know,
wow, don't everyone speak at once.
Right? One of the guys that I think is going to be a bust is Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings, to me, is a player that I am avoiding just because there is a potential here that Andre Williams takes over the role. There's a potential, of course, with the history of him as not a very healthy player.
Right.
You know, I'm
That's
being
putting it kindly. Yeah, I like that.
So I think where you get him, no matter what, your best case scenario is that he is the lead in a 3-headed monster of a timeshare. So if he is out there on the field, I don't really love the value, and so I'm avoiding him for that reason. But I think there's a bust potential here because you go out and you sign and pay money for Shane Vereen to come into the better pass-catching back role, and you have Andre Williams,
Because that was one of his strengths.
yeah, exactly. That was really where he excelled last year, Rashad Jennings, in the beginning of the year. And then goal line, you've got Andre Williams, and there's comments that he could take over, you know, on the just first in line.
Just getting some overall carries and early down work. I completely agree with this. Rashad Jennings is – we wanted to see him perform in the preseason with all the confusion. And
or just have a big commitment from the team in camp
to
him, which we didn't see. We saw so much unknown, and so now he's definitely on that bust list. He's the counterpoint to our Andre Williams sleeper talk yesterday. So, yeah, he's a good name. I'm going to throw Darren McFadden out there as a bust.
Okay.
I know that somebody will gain yards behind that offensive line. I'm just going to go out and say it's not going to be Darren McFadden very often.
It is a mess in Dallas right now for something that fantasy players considered a gold mine to get the player. I mean, I don't believe in Darren McFadden. He's over the past few years has been when you look at metrics and statistics and things, he's been one of the worst running backs in the league.
And film. I mean, it's not just stats.
And
you watch him, and he does not
you.
pass the eyeball test whatsoever. Name the last running back who's been aging, has stunk on a team for a couple years, switches teams,
and gets better.
And is better. Name the last one. Do you know who it is?
Herschel Walker.
No, he was still good. Trick questions never happened. Darren McFadden is not going to be the guy.
That's a trick question. Nice one. All right, so let's talk about a couple of warning guys. That's the word I'm using for them. You can use whatever word you want, but Emmanuel Sanders comes to mind, and I don't love bringing his name up on this show because I like Emmanuel Sanders a lot, but let me just set the table for him right now. Last year, he set career highs in basically every receiving category. So that should set off your alarm bells a little bit if you're drafting him. Expectation drafting. Yeah, you don't necessarily want to do that. The other thing in the equation is he's been banged up. The offense seems to be more committed to the run. Cody Latimer is in his second year. These are things that come to mind. So what are your gut feelings? Because part of what we do is stats. Part of what we do is smarts, I would say, and part of it is guts. So
do you have it? Oh my goodness,
Nickelodeon. I didn't have cable growing up.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
Foot Clan.
I knew what that was though.
Foot Clan Guts was the greatest show when you were a child.
I never saw it.
It's true.
I think that you bring up a lot of the good points. They're going to go a little bit more run heavy, and definitely Cody Latimer is going to be more involved. So injury aside, his numbers have to regress a tad. I think it's probable that his numbers are going to regress. Now you factor in the hamstring injury, which is one of those soft tissue lingering things that happen, and there's a chance for Cody Latimer to make a big deal. So,
and this is not a bust alert. This is
just
warning.
Where you're grabbing him. There's guys right before, right after him that are equal to me in the potential of Emmanuel Sanders. So if I'm choosing between some of those guys, I'm probably not going to grab Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. I want to
DeAndre Hopkins is right next to him. I would take DeAndre Hopkins over Emmanuel Sanders.
And obviously league format matters a little bit. In a PPR, I feel a little bit safer with Emmanuel Sanders than I do in a non-PPR. myself. But let's talk about another warning sign. I can't believe what I heard this morning when Mike looked this up.
I am not surprised.
Doug Martin is now being drafted ahead of Jonathan Stewart. Is that what you found?
That is what we saw from Fantasy Football Calculator.
So warnings. That is a official.
It's warning is called 2 years of sucking.
Yeah, that is not. Well,
Man,
I'm trying to think of Jonathan Stewart and how I would describe the last 2 years for him.
how's his play been? How was his play last
On
year?
the actual field. Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great point.
But what's great about fantasy football is our recency bias of 2 years, 2 full years of getting just scorched by Doug Martin. We watched 2 preseason games. We're like, yeah,
That's what's amazing
I'm
to
back
me.
in it, baby. We're back in it.
I was totally shocked because it is an absolute reaction to one game. Mostly.
Yeah,
I mean, mostly last game he had a big game.
when you do it on the prime time, it moves the needle.
Yeah, that was Monday night.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
so-
and we're not saying look, Doug Martin does look different. He looks more like his rookie self. But
Give me John Stewart.
But yeah, I'm taking Jonathan Stewart over Doug Martin. The offense will struggle frequently throughout the year with Winston as he goes through his growing pains, and
He's gonna take some goal line stuff away there too.
And Charles Sims is still there for passing downs. If they're trailing, I imagine we'll see a lot of Sims. And it's just 2 games is not going to erase 2 years for me.
Yeah. Let's take a quick timeout. I want to read something to you I got off of Twitter. It says, at the FF Ballers, I just used the SeatGeek app. It was great, and I was able to get great seats for not a lot of money to see my 49ers versus your Cardinals. Thank you.
Whoa.
I just got that this morning.
Hey, I hope the Cardinals shellac you.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. We talked about SeatGeek, the SeatGeek app, on the show on Tuesday, and it's awesome because it gets you discounted tickets to NFL games. It's as simple as that.
Really, truly is the easiest way to find them because their color coding thing that they do, I've been looking up certain tickets because I want to go to the Cardinals several times this year on good seats. And it's like you don't have to spend as much time in it. You open it up, and that color coding grid of the best price just means like, oh, I'm focusing right here. And because they're grabbing tickets from every place, from over 100 different sites, you already know that is literally the best price, and it takes 2 seconds in their app. You download the app, and it takes 2 seconds to just go, I want this game, I want the best price. Oh, here it is. Get it.
And guys, let's be honest. Real life NFL action is tremendous, and we know that tickets with a full family can be hard to come by right now. That's why you want to save as much money as you possibly can, still get the family out to the event. You go to SeatGeek. Here's what you got to do. You download the free SeatGeek app today. You put in the promo code FOOTBALLERS. You know what they do? 20 bones. 20 bones off already cheap tickets.
Yeah. Check out the SeatGeek app. It's awesome, and we like hearing from you. So if you use the app, tweet us. We'll read them on the show.
Tweet us pictures of your sad face when the Cardinals wipe the floor with you.
See, I normally left the family at home. That was the strategy to get cheap tickets.
Even cheaper.
Even cheaper. No, check that out. We appreciate SeatGeek, and we love the app. So, all right, let's talk a couple more guys in the warning category. One that's jumping off the page to me. I might have been caught up in the hype early on, and that's TJ Yeldon. Just the idea that, well, that offense needs to run the ball, and they drafted him so high, and so they're just going to give him the carries from day one, and it's going to be a rosy, magical ride, and I don't think that's the case anymore.
You've got, look,
for many
Jacksonville
reasons,
upgraded their offensive line, and there's a lot of things we like about the improvement, but it's still a subpar offense, and a completely unproven rookie who has other talented backs there. You combine all those 3 things together, and how can you jump and get crazy excited about TJ Yeldon? That just doesn't make sense. So it depends on value, right? If you're getting him late, if you're getting him 8th round, that seems like where a guy with those descriptions should go. That's why watch preseason game 3. This is going to be huge for TJ Yeldon.
I feel the exact same way on Yeldon as I did last year on Toby Gerhart, where it's, I think I'm getting a feature back. I'm not excited about the scoring potential, but I think I'm going to get tremendous volume, and so hopefully I'm going to get a safe floor. That's how I felt with Yeldon. And now that the volume seems like it's not going to be 100% there from day one, there are some warning signs. He could emerge and take the job, but like we talked about, Denard Robinson, he's looked good.
It's great.
Toby Gerhart has looked great in short yardage. We know Toby was hurt all last year, so maybe Toby still has has some stuff that they want to use.
And these aren't has-beens, so to speak. They paid for Gerhardt last year, and they didn't get a lot of use due to injury. And Denard Robinson was a draft pick and produced for them. Not every game, but he had 3 or 4 games where he was a 5-6 yards a carry kind of lightning bolt.
Because he was offensive weapon to Denard Robinson.
So we're throwing the warning out on TJ Yeldon. Again, this is going to be one of those things where I probably just draft somebody else because of who's around him in the draft now.
Or hopefully we can be taking his value down right now enough to where your draft this weekend, you get him in the 8th.
So we're in a PPR draft. Guys going around him. Arian Foster. That's kind of crazy, but I guess the news on him has been positive. So Arian Foster, Todd Gurley, Chris Ivory, Gio Bernard.
I love Chris Ivory there.
Yeah.
Just saying, those are guys who are clumped in a similar
I would
area.
draft most all of those over Yeldon.
Okay.
Including Arian Foster.
Now
if preseason, week 3 comes and he just looks like an absolute beast, we stay water. We stay nimble.
Be water, my friend.
But definitely don't just believe hype without seeing anything to back it up. Here's another player that I would avoid. Another player that I would avoid is Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham is completely based. It's completely based on just what you have to give up to get him. I actually have him as my number 2 tight end. I am not saying that Jimmy Graham is going to be a bad tight end. And if you have him on your team, he's an asset to your team. But here's the truth, is that especially now that Kelvin Benjamin has gone down, I feel like Greg Olsen has moved to that tier that we've only included Travis Kelce in. So now you've got 4 top options, but half of those options are going to cost you maybe a 5th or a 6th round. Whereas to get Jimmy Graham, you're looking back at the 2nd or the 3rd. I would much rather take a quality running back or wide receiver there and then get a guy that I think is going to finish just where Jimmy Graham is in Greg Olsen in the 6th.
Thank you.
It's
the defense rests.
It's pretty hard to debate that perspective on Jimmy because it's not saying Jimmy Graham's going to be terrible. It's saying that Jimmy Graham's not going to be on your team.
Right, exactly. He's a player that...
And your team will be better because Jimmy Graham is not on it.
Yeah. And then trade for him.
That's exactly what the GM at New Orleans said right before they traded him. Our team will be better with Jimmy Graham.
They had to with money.
No, and the Unger effect. Let's get him in there. Okay, one more bust I want to talk about before we get to our conversation with Marty McBride. Let's talk Tom Brady.
Yes.
Let's talk Tommy touchdown.
It's time to have a real conversation about Tom Brady.
Yeah. But not like one of those email ones where he says how much better he is than Peyton Manning. All right, so let's talk Tom Brady because he's going too high, my friends.
He's got a great name. He's a good-looking man. Everybody wants a piece of Tom Brady. The only problem is over the last several years, he hasn't been that good a fantasy quarterback. He really hasn't. Not until, what was it, 4 years ago when he put up his,
the
awesome,
Moss years?
Yeah, the Moss, that must have been more than 4 years ago. 5 years ago, I don't know. But yeah, the Moss year, after that, he's really been an average, run-of-the-mill quarterback. He had a great stretch for a couple of games last year where he was a top-end quarterback. And I'm not saying he's ever been like a quarterback 15 or 16, but you're not talking about a top 3 guy finishing the last few years. You're talking about a 7, 8, 9 guy, and he's set right now to miss 4 games. Why would you draft a guy who is a back half quarterback 1 who's going to miss 4 games and take up an extra roster spot? It is nonsensical.
But his name is so nice.
No, the argument, which I understand the legs of this argument. Last time the Patriots got in trouble, Spygate, Belichick and Tom Brady came out and decimated the earth. They did not pull the gas ever. They wanted to beat you by 50 points because they were furious. They had tremendous aerial weapons during that time. Now you go. And people think, oh, he's suspended. He's mad at the NFL. He's going to come out and he's going to crush people. I just don't think that the weapons are around him. Dude, the offense is not set up to do that.
Julian Edelman, hurt.
Brandon LaFell, hurt. They signed
Reggie Wayne.
They signed Reggie Wayne because they were so desperate. But to go along with Jason we remember that hot stretch in the middle. That was coming off of 4 games where he averaged under 10 points. He lost weeks.
2013, he finished the 14th best fantasy quarterback.
Yeah.
So.
He has not been real life the real life Tom Brady has not translated.
In
to
some
fantasy.
ways, you guys are saying the same thing about him that you've said about Stafford yesterday, which is the memories of grand years cause the name to kind of get elevated in drafts. So much like Jimmy, he's not going to be on your team. And then you mix the suspension in there and what we think exists at value at quarterback position, then we're saying bust alert for Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Yes.
if I'm a GM in the NFL, give me Tom Brady now. I think he's got years left. He's phenomenal. But fantasy, no way.
Is that phenomenal?
Phenomenal.
He's super fun?
He is such a fun guy.
Did you see him jump off that cliff?
No?
That was during the offseason? Really?
I missed
here
it.
I come.
I
Oh,
missed
he
it.
was cliff diving.
They must have loved that.
Yeah, his
What-
agent had a heart attack.
That's called getting your Gronk on? Is that what that is? All right.
Gronk would be diving off of a cruise ship is what Gronk would have been doing.
Into
Yeah.
the Atlantic I go.
So we have the privilege of talking to one of our favorite guys, Martavis Bryant. So let's go ahead and do that right now.
You talking to me?
The fantasy footballers are now joined by Marty McBride himself, Martavis Bryant of the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's going on, Martavis? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How y'all doing?
We're doing pretty well. So we want to talk about the offense in Pittsburgh. We're huge fans of yours. Last year was tremendous and tremendous for fantasy players as well. And so we're wondering what are some things that you're really liking about the offense this year?
Just how much work everybody done put into the off season and how better everybody done got coming to camp.
What are some things that have been different this year than your rookie year for you?
I came in more prepared this year, had better workouts and stuff, and just my confidence.
Now, do you play fantasy football?
I actually don't.
Okay. Do some of the guys on your team pay attention to it, or how much do people
Yeah,
talk about it?
Some people talk about it.
Yeah.
So speaking specifically to the offense, how often are you guys lining up three wide?
It's pretty cool that we can have me leading AB on the field at the same time, and everything is just clicking. You know, we're putting in great work each day to get better, developing our chemistry with Ben.
Now, we know last year you tended to get on the field more late in the season. Obviously, in the playoffs, you were amazing. Do you expect this year for you to be on the field more like you were in that playoff game and really have a high percentage of the snaps? Is that your expectation right now?
Right now, my expectation is, we're still in camp, so I'm just still focusing on that. But besides my playing time stuff, that's not really in my control,
Right? Yeah, you're just feeling it out. So is there any players that you kind of feel like this is who I compare myself to? Not in like an egotistical way, but just how do you compare your game?
I do just different things, so I don't really know who to compare myself to, But one of my favorite receivers is Randy Moss.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense. So we talk a lot on the show about the impact of the offensive line and the center. What's been the impact of losing Marquise for a while right now?
We're trying not to really focus on that. We got Cody, who is great as well. So
Yeah.
we're just trying to stay focused.
Is there anything else you're really looking forward to for this season?
Just getting started and putting in great work and just seeing where it takes us at the end of the year.
Who's the best DB that you played against last year?
Last year, I would say number 21 from the Colts because he's tall.
Yeah.
So the height helps. You put on some muscle this offseason, is that right?
Correct.
What did you do this offseason? You said that you're more prepared this year. What was it specifically you did this offseason that maybe you didn't know to do in your first offseason?
I had better training, I was doing MMA and I was running routes each day, and that really got my body right and my cardio up and just my hand movement.
Yeah, I like the MMA. We do some jits here, and that's a pretty good workout.
So
Yeah, it's really good.
So we know that you are an extremely busy man. So we want to thank you so much for joining us. We're keeping this one short and sweet for you, man. How's that?
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Martavis. We appreciate it.
All
right. That's just awesome. That is just awesome.
Thank you, Martavis. Marty
for taking
McBride.
a few minutes out of your busy day to talk to us.
And that guy's busting his butt right now.
Yeah.
And he was kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time.
I love that he said, Moss was the guy, because a few shows ago we said the same thing. Like, for me, it's a rarity to see a guy get behind the defense by so many yards. I mean, when he gets downfield, what Martavis Bryant's going to do. He's going to go long. And yet he's just like Moss. He would get 10 yards behind you.
And a reminder that for everyone who's buying into all the Wheaton hype of Wheaton's the number 2 guy, Wheaton was the number 2 guy last year. Who had the better fantasy production?
Yeah, and you give another year to Martavis.
Yep.
So, yeah, but that offense is going to be great. That is for sure. And Wheaton will have value. We're not saying he doesn't. It's just a matter of the talent by Bryant's talent, and the touchdown value of Bryant is so high. So that was a thrill. That was awesome having him on the show. Let's go ahead and spend the rest of our time talking mailbag.
Mailbag.
Mailbag! Going 88 miles an hour
Oh, wow.
with Martavis Bryant.
You should have thrown a Great Scott in there. That would have been the right play.
Great Scott!
There you go. All right, so we're going into the mailbag now, answering some listener questions. If you have a voicemail question you want to leave us, it's 302-464-TFFB. You can also send us a question on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. So first question here is from Tom in Ithaca, New York. He said, Harris introduced me to you guys. You guys are amazing. His question is this: does he keep Lacey in the 3rd or C.J. Anderson in the 8th? He's leaning towards C.J., but he needs a confidence boost. And I'm actually afraid we're not going to give him one. But let's see what you guys say.
To me, the value's too good to pass up. I love Lacey in the 3rd, and that is awesome. But if I can have CJ and my 3rd round pick, I would rather do that. And then handcuff CJ with Hillman and spin the pick. So I would give him the confidence boost because
you would say CJ.
Yeah, right now I've got CJ as I think like a top 5 back. Eddie Lacy might be number 1, but if I can get a top 5 back in the 8th, I'm going to take that.
This will be interesting to hear from Mike, because Eddie Lacy is now number 1 on his board.
First off, is this Tom Green from Road Trip in Ithaca?
It is Tom Green, yeah, because no one else is named Tom.
Well, in Ithaca. All right, you got another reference that is lost on you.
Oh, I love Tom Green.
Okay, I am.
He's still disappointed in you.
I'm taking the sure thing.
I am too.
I'm taking Lacey in the 3rd. The value.
The value's good enough to me.
Yeah, to lock up my number 1 guy in the 3rd. I want CJ in the 8th, but I'm not going to sweat it. I'm going to lock in the superstar Eddie Lacy.
There you go, Tom. Exactly what you didn't want.
No, two to one, 2-1 on Lacy. It's just take all the question marks of those two guys, put it on the scale, and there's too many on the CJ side for me to. If you weren't getting a value at all, if it was Lacey in the 2nd, it probably changes it for me.
I agree.
All right, Greg in Albuquerque. He said Doug Martin looks really good in preseason. With a rookie quarterback and an interesting receiving core. Should I pick him? Should I pick up Doug Martin? He has Lynch, Hyde, and Abdullah. Should I drop one of those guys to pick up Doug Martin?
You should absolutely pick up Doug Martin, and you should drop a guy to get him, and it should not be any of the running backs you just named. If you have a second quarterback, a second tight end,
is Abdullah going behind Martin based on that last ADP of Martin?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
I bet he is, but I still agree that I wouldn't do that. Because you have some solid guys here, and then I'd want the upside of Abdullah versus the kind of, I hope he's back of Martin.
Abdullah's going in the top of the 4th, so Abdullah's going in front of him.
Okay, so even more reason.
I'll tell you what I do. I drop my kicker, and I pick up Doug Martin, and I just hold him until the season starts, and then I pick up a kicker. Or then I figure it out.
But if you have a second tight end or a dispensable wide receiver, get rid of them.
Agreed.
All right. Brad in Phoenix.
Hey, Brad.
From out here. My question to you guys is, do you have different strategies for drafting in the middle, like pick 5 or 6, versus on the ends, like 1 and 2 or 9 and 10? For me, I think the ends are easier to draft because you're a step ahead of the drafters around you. Well, what a good question, because we just did our random draft order for the listener league, and that kind of bubbling vomit sound you heard was from Jason. Because
was me getting the 12th. I hate
you
that
didn't want
pick.
the 12th.
Oh, I hate it.
Mike,
right
where
now.
are we? We're 8 and 9?
Yeah, we're the magic
spot.
This is the best spot. Now, he's clearly in a 10-team league here with his question because he says the end is 9 or 10. And I like that a lot better because the truth is I see about 7 or 8 guys that I think are really, really great values this year. And in most drafts, not our listener league because our listeners are listening every week, but in most drafts, there's going to be an extra guy or two that's taken early. You got Aaron Rodgers who's going to go in the 1st or something like that, pushing back to that 9 or 10 spot where you get great value. I love it. But at the 12 spot, I hate it. But more to his point, I actually don't prefer being on the turns. I like having a small gap, like what you guys have at the 8-9, because it allows you to plan ahead and see a couple picks into the future, because you can just look at one or two teams and say, here's what they've got, here's what I expect them to do, and make your picks a little bit better.
When I'm on the end, it does change my strategy, because while I like to roll with the draft, usually when I'm on the end, I'm going to start with a running back, and then on my next turn, I'm talking 1-2. Sorry, if I'm in the 1, I'm going to start with the superstar running back, and then I want to grab a running back and a wide receiver. So I kind of know what positions I'm targeting. So, and where I'm in the middle, I'm free, man. I could do what I want. I'm dancing.
All right, Dion from New York City.
Dancing like Dion.
We got another New York City.
New York City.
There it is. You didn't grab it the first time. All right, is there a preferred – this is a good question. Get this all the time. Is there a preferred format for quarterback streaming? It isn't viable, obviously, in a 2-quarterback league, but would you recommend streaming in a 14-team league, PPR or standard? Would you recommend would it shift? Would we recommend streaming if you knew that the managers in your league like to stash quarterbacks? And what I'll throw in here to his question is 4-point and 6-point leagues. What's the difference? Do you always recommend streaming?
No.
So when we say the word streaming a lot, do not forget what we start that strategy with is a late quarterback who we are hoping sticks. A guy like Sam Bradford, Carson Palmer, Eli Manning. Those are my 3 guys that I think I can get late, and I think they're going to be great quarterback ones. When you're in a bigger league like a 14-team league, depending on the size of your bench, I lean more towards I'll grab them both. I will grab Palmer and I will grab Bradford, and then I will stream just those 2 guys based on the matchup, because I think the wire will be a little bit barren, even though it still can work. Absolutely. And if you listen to the show, the Footballers through the season, we are going to find deep options at the quarterback position and tell you who we are going to stream that week.
That's true. And one of the things, too, to remember is, somebody wrote me about this earlier yesterday, and the idea that, if your league stashes a lot of quarterbacks, that represents other value on the board. If they're drafting quarterbacks early, extra ones as backups, if the Aaron Rodgers guy grabs, Eli Manning, I mean, what is he? He's not going to start both every week in a 1-quarterback league. So there should be better running backs and wide receivers on the board because of that. So, but that's good perspective, guys. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Very, very often asked question. All right, Jason from Louisiana said, good morning, loves the show. His wife actually introduced us.
Wow. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
It's a good
people.
wife right there.
Did you get her some handsome fancy? Well, not for her. Not for her.
Oh, come on now.
I mean, aren't you kind of getting it for the wife?
Yes.
Because
I see what
your
you're
beard smells. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
But honestly, if you got
get it for her sake, but for his beard.
There you go. For her sake, his beard.
Let's keep digging this hole.
Very important.
How far low
yeah,
can we go?
Don't just put it in a box and give it to her.
No, that'd be weird.
Because that would be insinuating a problem. Mm-hmm. All right, Jason from Louisiana. I recently drafted Jordy Nelson in my 10-team half-point PPR league. Devontae Adams went very late in the draft. Should I pick up in Nelson's roster spot these guys, Devin Funchess or Ronnie Hillman? He has C.J. Anderson.
I would pick up Funchess because I think he represents a good value as a wide receiver, and you have lost a wide receiver.
Bunches of value?
Bunches of Funchess.
I'm rolling honey bunches of Funchess.
Who originated? Is that Harris? Was that Harris?
Yeah, Harris.
I think that was Harris.
Yeah, we started with bunches of Funchess, and the man Christopher Harris put the word honey on there. And
so I have to agree.
It.
I mean, I'd like to have Hillman to handcuff Anderson, but you lost the wide receiver, and Funchess is going to get targeted, or at least an opportunity to do something there. And there was a report this morning that he might get pretty heavily targeted from the coach. So, all right, that's it for the mailbag. Let's remind you, fantasydraftwizard.com for all your 2-minute mock drafts. Get yourself ready for the draft. We're going to come back next week, and a lot of people have drafted, so we'll give you some week 1 insights and things like that. Tomorrow we have John Paulson from 4 for 4 on the show. That'll be exciting, and we'll have some preseason football taking place.
Ooh.
So
that sounded.
Thank you.
I'm actually
Thank
excited.
You.
That sounded very insincere.
This is week 3. This is real preseason football.
Yeah. So visit us on YouTube. You can watch all the shows on YouTube. You can also watch us on the Fantasy Sports Network, and subscribe on iTunes.
And support us on jointhefoot.com.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.